Hello, welcome to another one of these show-offs where I show off another character that I've made, which I'm going to give to you, oh loyal Patreon subscribers. Thank you so much for helping me out in a very difficult time in my creative life generally. Thank you. Here is the dog, the colourful dog character, contrasting the wobbly line dog character that I've previously shown on here. And he is sort of like the typical kind of 90s design character of that time. Now, this has issues, this dog, I'm not going to lie. He has problems, but he has some good things too, like all the characters in this series. So I'm going to go through how you move him and all of that malarkey. I've got the 2 buttons set up here, which I'm really doing for pretty much all the characters that I make from now on. I think it's just so simple and easy to get to, and I can kind of know what I'm doing without even having to think about it, you know what I mean? Which is the crux of good design. You know, if you can sort of create something solid and, you know, you can predict how you're going to use it even before you're even using it, that is the good thing. So the bottom one always brings up some controls, and the top one will show a rendered preview of the character, which is quite important for these characters because the line boils for them, you see. Now, in order to move his whole head, you get hold of this donut shape and you move his head around, and it sort of consequentially moves the rest of the body in some way. So his whole body, like so many of these characters, have constraints in them to get that body moving around. You've got constraints for the legs. If you want to move the middle part, you just sort of click nearer the middle and you can sort of do that kind of thing. That would break his leg. Obviously, that's the reason why it doesn't look quite so good when it's like that. But yeah, that kind of thing. And because of the nature of this kind of character, there's a kind of IK set up. There's no FK in it. It just sort of works like that. So if I were to move his leg there, it would stay there, and you know what I mean, that kind of thing. Now, his tail was a little invention of mine. So what you can do is you can grab hold of like the whole of the end of the tail using this kind of weird lozenge shape, and you can wag it like that, which is kind of a nice thing. But also this square wags it for you, so you can just wag his tail quite happily by moving the square around. So it was kind of a neat little trick, and it allows him to wag his tail with minimum effort, which is, since he does it a lot, I thought that was quite important. That's the secret of good puppet, is that if you know a character is going to do something repeatedly, it's a good idea to try and build some controls in it to make the animator's life easier so they can concentrate on acting, darling. Now, this is a tongue wiggler, which is in the middle. Basically, it's controlling that point there. In retrospect, what I should have done perhaps is moved the donut to the centre of the tongue. I'm not sure, to make it a bit clearer. If you want to move the tongue, because the entirety of his tongue slides around, what you might need to do from time to time is move the actual tongue to another location and then move it, you know what I mean? It wasn't the best design. There are flaws with this particular thing, and I'm not keen on some of the tongue's movement, if I'm honest. The thing I absolutely hate about this character is the ears. The square controls the flapping of the ears, which sort of works on that ear, but as you can see on that one, it really does some ugly crap there. I'm not keen. So it kind of, I mean, it certainly works for like the 2 shots that he's in. Could it have been better? Of course it could. Yes, it definitely could. I really don't like the way that this is put together at all, because it's a mixture of constraints and deformers. I know how I would do it now, but at the time I was still figuring out a few little things to try and make waggly ears more of a thing. And they, as I say, they kind of work, but they don't really. Shut up. So this one is a very cheap, dirty master controller for the nose. So it kind of moves the nose as a kind of 3D effect. It has a breaking point. You notice there his nose puckers, and it also does that. So you'll have to move if for more extreme poses, you know what I mean? So it's not entirely successful. What it is good for is just sort of gentle little nudgings that works well. But if you want anything more extreme, it will break. You see. But it, as I say, the little things, it works reasonably well. So it's not entirely without merit. Now, his eyes have the more advanced sort of blinking idea. Because of the nature of this character design, you will, as you can see here, need to just calm that down a bit so that it hides behind there. But you do it too much and it'll poke through there. There you go. The other eye does the same thing. His eyes are tiny, and because they're so tiny, I've actually moved the pivot down here so that you can get hold of it. So if you need to rotate it, it will want to rotate like that. So you might want to just move that rotational to somewhere a little bit more localized if you need to turn that around. But I thought that was a better trade-off rather than, I've touched the pivot every time, you know what I mean? Just to move the eye around. So, that was the trade-off there. The bow tie, if you move the center, it moves the whole thing. If you move the edges, it moves those. But I tend to do that for bow ties quite a lot because it gives you the ultimate in sort of configurability. You know what I mean? You can sort of fiddle around with quite a lot of it, and that's like the mother area. That's the mother lobe. Back leg, don't like how some of that works, to be honest, because if you think about it, what his leg's bones are actually doing is that. What would have been good, I mean, it's fine for these shots. Honestly, it's fine for these shots. But if I was doing a more permanent character, I would pretty much redo about 60% of him. He is not built for multiple uses. And his leg would have to have at least a swappable leg. So he'd go from when he's sitting down like that to one where it's more like that. If you can see that there, more of that kind of design, which his leg can't do. I don't even think it can swap around. No, it can't. So you can't even flip the leg around. You know what I mean? It's a very awkward thing. I can't remember even if I've done any substitutions. Oh, I did one substitution where it got a bit longer, but to get me through a shot, But things like this where the line suddenly disappears and everything. I mean, there was no point in me going in and creating some special sandwich system so the line suddenly appears behind his body. He's hardly on screen, you know what I mean? So you can move his foot, so that's one thing you can do. But there's a little ruffle here, fluffle, that's in that position there. Other than that, I think that's it. He's straightforward, yet he isn't, you know what I mean? So I've got some pleasant little animation out of him, despite all of that. I'll include that this time for this because I thought it just might be a nice little thing to include. Whoops, let me just turn that off. So this is a little bit of animation of him there. So, have fun with him, pull him apart, see what you can get out of him like all these other characters. As I stress every single time with these in particular, these things that I'm giving away at the moment with this project, is that they are flawed. They're explorations in some part, but they're also me quickly making a large amount of characters for hardly any shots, you know what I mean? So they are not perfect. No Puppet is, but these in particular are not perfect because I'm having to bash them out. And they're having to do, they're not a standard shape. I mean, this is the thing. If you're making a series, a sensible thing to do is to make most of the characters fairly similar shape to each other so that you can reuse the same structure. And then you're just replacing essentially the makeup, the hair, the face, all that sort of stuff, Little thing here, when I worked on Bob the Builder, we had essentially 3 different types of puppet. I think it was two or three anyway, and they were reskinned, but the underlying structure of so many of the characters was one of those 3. And that was also the case on Chicken Run. I didn't work on that, but I know that they made, because they had so many chickens to make, they had 3 classes of chicken, and then they were all variations of that, it's the same thing. Whereas these characters are fundamentally so different to each other that I can't do that. So I have to quickly, bash out all of these things. So it's, learn from bad things as well as good things. It's always a good thing. But yeah, hope you enjoy this fun thing. I mean, he looks quite charming in a sort of knockoff Pluto kind of way. He's not, you know, he's not my favourite character design at all. But he's kind of, you know, a kind of parody of that kind of 90s extreme Toon idea. But yeah, anyway, hope you enjoy him, and I'll see you again very, 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 very soon. Bye-bye!